Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar presented by TCS Chroma, the intersection of HR tech and employee well-being, leveraging technology to enhance mental health support. I'm Madhura Kulkarni, your host for the evening. Before we get into the panel discussion, let me go ahead and introduce you to TCS Chroma. TCS Chroma is TCS's proprietary cloud-based hire-to-retire HRMS platform that is currently serving multiple enterprises across domains. If you want to know more about the platform, please feel free to click the book a demo option that should be visible on your screen. Now, getting back to the topic, we all would agree that, as generations evolve, our expectations from our workplaces also evolve. And in today's fast-paced and digital-driven world, enterprises have begun recognizing the importance of supporting employees with their mental health and wellness. In today's webinar, we'll dive into the intersection of HR technology and employee well-being, and we'll also focus on innovative technological solutions that can be leveraged to provide effective mental health support at the workplace. But to begin with, some house rules. You will be placed on mute throughout the duration of this session. You can submit your questions if you have any for the panelists using the Q&A option that is visible on the right side of your screen. You can download TCS Chroma brochure using the resources hub that is visible on your screen. And towards the end, you'll be also posed with poll questions. Please kindly fill the survey and help us gather some important data about mental wellness. Without much ado, now let us meet the panelists. Our panelists today are Mr. Vikas Dua, is the Chief of People at Shandwick, India. Mr. Sandipan Nandy is the Head of HR at Godavari Biorefineries Limited. Mr. Sidharth Mehra, CFO and CHRO at Zolo. And Mr. Prakash P Swamy is the Unit Head for TCS Chroma Platform. Now, let me also go ahead and run you through the panelists of their illustrious backgrounds. Vikas is a leading voice in the HR community in India. He has spent over 18 years in the HR domain and has held various leadership positions across industry sectors. Currently, Vikas heads human resources function for Shandwick, India, which is a part of Interpublic Group in India. He also has authored a best-selling book called HR in My Heart, Leadership Lessons Like Never Before. And he also runs a podcast channel called Heartfelt Conversations for Students. If you look for him on YouTube, you'll also find his TEDx talk. In addition to all this, Vikas is also an advisor to the BRICS Chamber of Commerce and Industries, and he is the member of Indian Council for Federation of World Academics. He's recognized as LinkedIn's top voice. We are very happy to have you with us, Vikas. Our next guest for the evening is Mr. Sandipan Nandy. Sandipan has over 20 years of extensive experience as an HR professional in the EPC, marine, chemical, and sugar industries. He's currently serving as a head of HR at Godavari Biorefineries, and he's led global teams and managed both India and abroad operations in HR. In his free time, Sandipan enjoys connecting with people and reading books. We're very happy to have you with us today, Sandipan. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Madhura.
Our next guest for today is Mr. Sidharth Mehra. Sidharth is a distinguished professional with a background as a chartered accountant and company secretary. He is currently serving as a Chief Financial Officer and Chief Human Resources Officer at Zolo. With his impressive career spanning financial management, strategy formulation, and business development, Sidharth has excelled in key roles at reputed non-banking financial institutes too. In addition to his illustrious career, Sidharth has made it to the list of top 30 startup CHROs in India in 2024. Welcome aboard, Sidharth. Our next guest for the evening is our very own Mr. Prakash P Swamy. Prakash is a thorough technocrat with over 23 years of experience across product and services organizations and captive centers. Prakash has a domain expertise in US retail, US media, and India HRMS. He is currently spearheading TCS's proprietary HRMS platform, TCS Chroma, and leads in the areas of IT managed services programs, service delivery, product development, strategized legacy modernization, and champion digital transformations and data center technologies. I'll hand over the baton to Prakash now, who will also be moderating today's panel discussion. Over to you, Prakash.
Thank you so much, Mudra, and very good evening to everyone. Welcome to today's panel discussion on this topic, the intersection of HR tech and employee well-being, leveraging technology to enhance mental health. This topic is timely, but also crucially important in our rapidly evolving workplaces in this post-pandemic scenario. I extend my heartfelt gratitude and welcome the senior HR leaders here from the industry who have gracefully agreed to be part of this panel. And I'm sure their wealth of experience and expertise from diverse sectors and practical aspects from their organizations will be leaving us enriched and provoked thoughts. Eventually, what each of us at the end of the day aspire is to be happy, be healthy, feel fulfilled in one's personal and professional life. This spans physical well-being, emotional, mental, and even financial well-being. Mental well-being in particular, that carries a degree of social stigma in the Indian society. Be it Shah Rukh Khan or Deepika Padukone speaking about depression or Anushka Sharma on anxiety disorders. We have come a long way from being aware to acknowledging it and even speaking about it. So over the next 45 minutes or so, we'll delve into how the advancements in HR technology is reshaping the landscape of employee well-being, particularly focusing on how these innovations and interventions that can be harnessed to provide improved support to the employees. The workplace environment has undergone significant transformation, from remote work being a significant part of the way of life today, gig workforce being a large percentage of workforce in many organizations. Regardless of all of these paradigm shifts, the employee remains central and core asset for an organization. With the growing recognition and the importance of mental health, organizations are increasingly looking towards technology as a means to support and nurture this key asset. Today, it's my privilege to be amongst these distinguished panel of HR leaders moderating and have a share of their insights, experience, and visions for the future. Also calling out to all the audience, you will be seeing questions through the discussion for polling, and we look forward for your participation. Okay, let's get started off with the core question of mental and psychological well-being. Mr. Sidharth, why, in your view, the organizations are redirecting their focus on mental and psychological well-being? Do you see that these are sustained focus for the CHROs in the long run?
Well, thank you, Prakash, first of all, for having me on this panel. Love to be part of your audience today. Prakash, I think let's start with looking at some of the data that is published by WHO, right? They estimate that over $1 trillion are spent every year by corporates in terms of solving for mental health issues at work, right? And they also believe that for every $1 that you spend, right, you will essentially get a return of $4 in terms of improved productivity and improved employee health. Now, these are huge numbers, right? When you talk about a return of 4x, I don't know there is any financial instrument which can give you a 4x return than this can. And, solving for $1 trillion of economy. The other piece which is very important is, no matter which survey you look at, what pulse surveys you look at, there is a very consistent trend that is coming out when a question is posed with respect to depression, anxiety, stress, overload, irritation, all of that, right? It is fair to assume one out of the two, whichever cohort you take, whether it is cohort across age groups within an organization, or you cut it across just for Gen Zs, you're talking about numbers in excess of 1/2, 1 in 2. Now, 1 in 2 is a huge number for any organization to be solving for. And these are growing numbers. So if you plot that trend over the last pre-pandemic to now, you will see these numbers have consistently been increasing. These are not good signs, right? For any organization, forget about the organization, but I think even as a society, it's not a good sign. So there is a big shift today, right, where organizations today are wanting to become healthy organizations, right? So there is a new term about organizations now called healthy organizations, and I'll probably dwell into what healthy means, right? But enough surveys have been done, enough research has been done, which says that healthy organizations, the rate of absenteeism in those organizations is almost 11 times lower than unhealthy organizations, right? In terms of retention of employees, it is 3x. In terms of delight to customers, it is 2x. In terms of financial outcomes, which is what every organization is measured on, is 5x, right? Now, when you look at these type of financial outcomes and customer outcomes, I think it is very important to understand it is not anymore a side gig in an organization, but it has to be deeply embedded in the strategy of the organization, right? So you have to bring it to the forefront. If you go back a little bit in time, organizations were very particular about employee safety, right? And it all started with medical health care. Do you have an insurance policy? Not an insurance policy. That all has evolved. And thanks a lot to technology, where you have now telemedicines, you have counselings, you have so many other tools which are becoming available to the organization. So organizations are not thinking anymore in a traditional fashion. That is the reason why a lot of organizations today are coming up with roles like chief medical officer, chief culture officer, right? Chief wellness officer. These were titles, positions we had never, chief ethical officer, right? These were never something we had ever heard in the past. But today, they are becoming important leadership positions in the organization to essentially solve for some of these things. So you can really understand that how critical top leaderships today are thinking about these factors, which probably wasn't even talked about 5-10 years back, right? Therefore, I think it is not just a function of what HR is doing or what a CHRO is doing. It is now a KPI, a KRA for every leader in the organization to look after the well-being of the organization, well-being of the employees, right? So that brings me to the point, what is a healthy organization? See, every organization will go through an evolution, right? TCS has been in existence for so many years, whereas a startup may be 2 years old, right? So you start with focusing on employee safety, right? That's the bare minimum somebody starts on. You then move to employee well-being, right? From there on, you move on to healthy work, which is about teamwork, collaboration, right environment, and then you move to a healthy organization, where there is a holistic approach to well-being, and that holistic approach to well-being is about physical health, personal health, financial health, emotional health, mental health, giving to the society, contributing to the community, to the nature, all of that, right? And leadership, right? And this is the key ingredient. Leaders play a very, very active human-centric approach, right? So I believe today the job of a CHRO is to see how can I evolve an organization to being a healthy organization? How do I make leaders take a position which is from being a passive position to a more active position in driving a holistic wellness approach in an organization?
Thanks so much, Sidharth, for that. 1 trillion 4x return. That itself is a key thing to start off. How central all that. So certainly, mental well-being is central and critical. It's just not for the CHROs, like you pointed out. It is for every leader in the organization. This starts becoming a key KPI. So moving on, Mr. Sandipan, what upcoming trends in the HR technology that will further this holistic health support in the workplace, and what should be the organization's approach to deploy relevant technologies?
Yeah, thanks Prakash, and thanks Sidharth and Vikas. And thanks Sidharth to bring the point that 1 trillion USD loss in the productivity. So you can understand now that no organization can ignore that mental health being, and that is a key factor for the productivity and healthy organization. So, if, even the few years before that, the mental health being was the personal issue. Now it is not a personal issue; it is the organizational issue. An organization has to take care for their better productive and better healthy organization. In market, there are lots of technology, but I can now give that some of the key technology which are giving that more supporting into the organization, growing the health part. First, I can remember that one is that your AI and predictive analysis. By this technology, they gather that large amount of data and they do the predictive analysis, and they give you trend of your organizational health before that become any critical, so that organization can take the proper measures before and give that tailor-made solution to their organization, to their employees. Second is that there are some organizational health being that platform and app where that employee can get their tailor-made solution. They are as and when they require. With that, like that, they are coaching for the stress management, coaching for their mental health management. Even they have some of that starting from the pandemic COVID, we see that telemedicine service. Some organization they are taking the telemedicine service that their employees can, as and when required, they can approach to that their consultant, external consultant, take their seeking their help. Even some of the organization they are making that counseling and that community when that where the employee can take that help of that other peer and other employee, they can sharing their experience. So and this technology evolved so much, and that requirement of the technology evolved so much big to integrate your total needs of the employee along with your objective. Your second part of that, your question, that how that organization, I can give that example for my how that our organization do. We mostly take the three part of that for any implementation, especially for HR technology. We take that organizational objective based approach. We first find out that what the actual objective needs of the employee, and we map with that needs with our health well-being partner and our technology partner. Second, we run one pilot project with this within the small number of employee and take the feedback. And third most is that we make the collaborative approach where we take that all the stakeholder, employee, our health partner, well-being partner, and our technology partner, and make one CFA. And then we start that implementation process. So by this three stage, objective-based approach, your pilot project and feedback, and stakeholder collaboration, then only you can get that. I think then only you can get that proper success and get the 100% implementation of that any program, especially the HR tech and well-being.
Thanks, Sandipan. I guess you kind of touched upon both the approach and the technologies, be it analytics that is being driving things, or be it telemedicine. And thanks for the detailed response. However, the biggest question when we consider any intervention is the cost that comes associated with it to intervene. So, Mr. Vikas, What benefits do you anticipate investing in the HR tech solutions for the employee well-being? And most importantly, how would we justifying these investments to the stakeholders?
Great question, Prakash, and thanks for putting that out here, because I think for all the HR practitioners who are listening, and I think that will be very valuable insights, hopefully, that all of us collectively will be able to share. And of course, it's an honor to join with Sidharth, Sandipan, and yourself to share my perspective. Now, very clearly, I think both of them is also well established that there are immense benefits of integrating HR tech around well-being. And when it comes to convincing stakeholders, be it the CEO, be it the CFO, I think there are arguments to be made on two fronts. One is, of course, data-backed arguments, and the second, I feel, is the human story-backed arguments, right? We've grown up over the last 2 decades in HR, where we've seen HR being, having moved from being called personnel management to the human resource management function. But increasingly, what we are sensing and hearing is the fact that wellness is top of the agenda. And for that reason, somewhere I feel in the decades to come, we may well be renamed as human wellness enabling function or something like that. If you look at, let's say, reports which have come in from PwC or LinkedIn, all of them are saying the same thing in different ways, right? PwC report last year, 2023, shared that 70% of staff would consider leaving a job that does not prioritize mental health. LinkedIn report of the same year last year, very recent, again shared that 83% of Gen Z employees prioritize mental health support from their employers. Now, when data is speaking that language, it is imperative that HR leaders like ourselves listen to that data. But beyond that, what I also want to share, and I mentioned it earlier, is the human stories of today's work life, right? We know that post the pandemic, the world has changed. While we may have become hybrid, we may have become remote, the fact is we are also now 24/7 in our work. Be it a mobile phone, be it our iPad, be it the laptop that we all get on day one of joining a company, we are never really allowed to switch off. And that's where the entire, you can say, workforce has gotten stretched to a point where the ongoing stress is impacting them at various levels. Now, we also know for a fact that it's not only work that causes stress, but it's also the health, the wealth of the near and dear ones. It is the financial well-being of ourselves and our family. So all of those factors, which I think you also mentioned at the start, Prakash, combined to create a situation where we are never really able to switch off and just be ourselves. And when you have these stories in front of you, when you see instances in your society, in your organizations, where at younger age you have people falling prey to major illnesses, those are stories which you need to remember, which you need to kind of share, which you need to discuss with the transparency with your leadership, with the aim that there is some mental shift happening at that level in terms of encouraging more and more people to come together, to open up, and to support one another in this journey. Because again, it's not a journey where you or me or Sidharth or Sandipan, for that matter, can individually do something transformational. It is a journey where we need to partner with the right experts, be it counselors, be it psychiatrists, be it meditation practitioners, be it yoga teachers, where and of course platforms which kind of integrate all of this and bring it to our staff. That too, in my mind, is the right approach in trying to build consensus and get your stakeholders on board in terms of approving any investments that are required to go down this path.
Thanks, Vikas. I'm sure that's a kind of lesson takeaway. So how do we pitch our proposition to our stakeholders? I think it was already touched upon where we started talking about analytics. So the key part, so the data analytics, the human element, and the all-pervasive AI that we see today. So Sidharth, from your experience, what role does data analytics and AI play out in today's world to identify these early signs of mental well-being among the employees? And most importantly, how can we ethically utilize this information to effectively provide timely support to these employees?
I love the word, Prakash, ethical. That just brings a complete spin to the story. So Prakash, I think, look, we all learned prevention is better than cure. I think that one statement sums it all in a lot of ways. But before I answer about the benefits and how the organizations will benefit and employees will benefit, what is most important is to look at what drives it, right? What are some of the things which are driving these mental, anxieties and depression and stress and so forth, right? All these negative connotations. Um, Interestingly, we all know technology is playing a big role in, whether it's the social media or any type of digital overload that is there. I think a lot of youngsters have very clearly accepted and acknowledged about the addiction, about the mental health that is getting disturbed because of this technology overload. You also know about the job scene in India, which is very intense. There are a lot of people who have an underemployment, I should say, in our country. But two very interesting trends which are actually evolving over and above this. One is, the instant gratification world, right? It is a competition that is happening right now between a consumer and an employee. So it is always whether the consumer inside me is going to win or the employee inside me is going to win. Right? I am being trained and groomed as a consumer by the Amazons, Flipkarts, Netflix to have an instant gratification of everything that I want, right? Whereas when I go to, as an employee and I come to Prakash and say, Prakash, hey, I finished my work, I need my appraisal. Prakash will say, oh, wait till March, you can't get it now, right? So there is no instant gratification which is happening at that point of time, and there's a confusion, right? Confusion arises in my mind. Now here you expect me to have patience, perseverance, and consistently perform over a period of time, whereas on the other hand, all my decisions have to be impulsive, transactional, quick, right? So it is having that dichotomy in our human brains of instant gratification versus delayed rewards, right? The second piece, right, which is again a very interesting trend, and I'm not sure whether you have experienced this, is, and I think it's an unintentional one, so I want to qualify this upfront that it's unintentional, but this whole narrative about AI, Gen AI, machine learning, is creating a certain degree of insecurity and fear in the minds of people, right? Because what is the narrative within the organizations unknowingly is building, oh, this Gen AI is going to eliminate the HR function. We only need one person. We only need people in legal. We only need 0 people in finance. We only need 1 person in inside sales, right? So I'm an employee and I'm hearing all of this, right? It's creating a fear. It's creating an insecurity. And I don't know what I need to do. Neither is the organization telling me that, don't worry, if this is going to happen, this is how we are helping you gain new skills and be employable, right? So that narrative is swung too much in the other direction, unknowingly. I keep repeating unknowingly, but that I think is not helping, right? And we need to bring that narrative back and help people understand through historical evidences, saying that this is the same thing that happened when internet came in. Everybody said it will only be technology and there'll be no human beings required, but that's not the case. It wasn't the case, right? So, when you understand these underlying behaviors and underlying trends which are driving this, we want to use technology to solve for it, right? So clearly technology has a huge benefit, right? Whether you want to talk about surveys, whether you want to talk about sentiment analysis, benchmarking, workload analysis, predictive health screening of an individual, all of these can be well accomplished by technology. Now, to do that, one needs to be very careful, right? There are a lot of instances, and I don't want to name organizations because these are really reputed organizations, where people were, measuring work and how much time that you're spending on work, what is your productivity levels, what breaks are you taking, etc., etc. It backfired, right? So the use of technology backfired, right? Similarly, there are a lot of platforms today who are trying to promote retention, trying to promote quality hiring, right? Where they are spying on your social media presence, understanding how you're interacting on Facebook, X, Insta, all of that. There is a question mark, right? Coming to your ethical point, that are you allowed to intrude into my personal space, right? Can you use my personal data to drive any conclusions and analysis, right? So I think we need to create that atmosphere of trust, transparency within the organization, where I have that information, I have that consent with the employee understands what that data is being used for, right? So that I can do timely interventions, right? Now, whether that intervention is in the form of stress management, mental health day, yoga day, meditation day, specific to an employee intervention, but that trust has to be there. I should not feel scared. I should not feel it is going to backfire if somebody in the organization oh, I have a mental problem, right? Because then somebody can label me saying I'm not qualified, I am not competent, I am not capable of doing my job, right? So I think as leaders, that's our responsibility, that if we really have to leverage technology in an ethical fashion, the benefits are there for us to see, but what we need to do is to create that environment which will enable us to get to those benefits.
Thanks, Sidharth. Absolutely. I guess it is the environment, and then environment of trust that's fundamental to taking anything around mental health forward. So I think it was already touched upon here. So it's not just about creating all of these interventions within the organizational ecosystem, but it's also about bringing the collaborations across the organizations. I guess earlier in the talk, Sandipan and Vikas brought out, and you said Amazons and others who kind of bring in that kind of instant gratification model. So it is an ecosystem that you need to beat beyond the boundaries of the organization. And that's where all of those influences to the employees come in. So Sandipan, so as mental health becomes very prominent and also becomes a part of the CSR. So how, in your view, the HR tech solutions facilitate this collaboration across organizations, across mental health resources to support the employee well-being?
Yeah, Prakash, actually, I want to start from where the Sidharth aimed that collaboration, the trust factor. That this is the main responsibility for the HR, create that environment, create that ecosystem. If you organization ready to implement that HR tech, and organization ready to implement that other initiative, but whether our organization policy supports, we have to create those policies where the policy should support that initiative. We should, for example, support for that hybrid work model. We can take the flexi working hour. We can take the comprehensive health insurance package. Second is that whether my culture, that is the inclusive culture, whether employees are sharing their mental health stress with other employees without any stigma. That culture we have created, that is another important thing. Whether that suppose there is that what I can say, that the employee can freely speak about their problem with their leader, whether they are not should not be in that fear, should not be any fear factor, whether if I declare anything about my mental health, if I'm stressed, that should not become to negative impact in my in my review. So that type of ecosystem, that type of environment we should create in that organization before implementation. And not only now that some of the organization, they are taking the larger part, they are taking the covering this initiative, not only the employee, they are taking the cover, they are covering their family members. Because if your family member also not without stress, if they are not healthy, even that physically or healthy, you cannot be as a family member. We cannot be healthy. We will be our mind will be there. So it is the larger aspect to cover all that in broader perspective, cover that organ or for that mental this program in the CSF form. And if you ask that HR technology, there are a few technologies where people can share that common platform. What I told, that where the employee can discuss their with that peer or any other experience or other consultant. There is some navigation or some referral platform where that they can anytime they get the access, and that also extended to their family member. So my view is that to implement, first we have to, as a nature, we have to work on that our policy, our environment, our inclusive culture. Then we can implement that other technology factor, make it more effective.
Thanks, Sandipan. Especially in my organization, when I look at when I apply a sick leave, so we have a nice way of putting it. It doesn't, under the sick leave, I give a category employee well-being, and that's how we apply it. So there is no classification of further reasons. We just say sick leave, employee well-being is my reason.
Your manager should not track that how many sick leave that you are taking and why you are taking so many sick leave.
True. So yeah, I know. Building that ecosystem is the paramount. Right? Regardless of all of this, everything said and done, the essential element when we talk mental well-being is the human touch, and that's central to addressing all of this. So Vikas, what are your views on how organizations ensure these tools are effectively supporting the employees' mental health without replacing the human interaction?
Sure, Prakash. So, I'll give you a little obtuse answer to explain what I feel about this. Just an instance which happened earlier today, and my younger daughter, she is about 11 years of age. She managed to solve the Wordle puzzle within 3 tries. And big record for her, because normally she struggles with it, right? So we are very thrilled, and I offered to treat her to ice cream. And I'm in Gurgaon right now. My daughter is in South Delhi where we stay. And using an app, I've ordered the ice cream for her, or a choice of her flavor, and it will reach her at home with zero human interaction. Only person we'll see or she'll see is that person who comes to deliver it at home. Now, a very simplistic example, but that is the kind of life we are today leading, where we are kind of shunning all sorts of human interaction in most of our engagements. Even when we travel, let's say for an annual vacation, chances are that flight booking, hotel booking, whatever we are doing online and without any travel agent in the picture, without any hotel receptionist, and we enjoy our vacation, come back without any trouble at all. However, when it comes to wellness at the workplace and assisting staff or colleagues or friends with challenges they may be facing, I think you cannot completely hand over to technology and say, manage on your own. You cannot put up posters in the office and say, this is your application, this is your platform, go log in and take the support you want. So in my view, very strongly, you need a hybrid approach to work, where your HR team gets empowered, gets trained, gets qualified, gets supported to be able to handhold and support your staff and help them, maximize whatever benefits your platform or your app is providing them in terms of their wellness. And if you're able to do that successfully, then I think you have a good play in ensuring that all those metrics which Sidharth spoke about earlier, you are sort of able to somewhere match up to those. What it will take is obviously some level of listening your ear to the ground, employee surveys from time to time to figure out what parts of that solution are working, what are not working, and make those tweaks accordingly. What it will also take is an ongoing communication and training program, where you are continuously educating your team about the benefits of wellness, how they should open up, how they should take the advantages of the solution that is on offer. And encourage them to kind of adopt and experiment and discuss, because that's the only way that I think we'll normalize, wellness discussions and help people open up and derive the most out of these solutions. That's where I stand on this.
Thanks, Vikas. So like you said, you're on the ground. So just not the ear on the ground. I still believe they also expect a shoulder as well, especially on the mental wellness aspect. So everything said and done, as they say, right? The proof is in the pudding. So Sidharth, with all of these efforts to extend the use of technologies, enable innovations and interventions leveraging technology, do you see that the employees are equally receptive and engaging proactively?
Prakash, I wish there was a magical wand I had in my hand and I could drive it at 80%, 90%, or 100%. But that isn't the case, right? We all understand it's a journey, and that journey will take time to get to that point. Having said that, I do want to highlight a few points. I want to just pick up from where Vikas left, right? Technology is an enabler, is not a solution, right? We have to understand that we are dealing with human beings, and we do need a human shoulder on the other side to cry if required, right? Imagine, Prakash, you take some technology test which is trying to assess essentially whether you are depressed or whether you are anxious or not, and he comes up with a score and saying, hey, you have a severe depression, right? Now, would you as a person just rely upon a technology to come to that judgment and say no, because the system has said, I will take it on the face value. I will not go and see a counselor. I will not go and see a psychologist and so forth, right? There is a certain role technology has to play. There's a certain role that a human being has to play, because there's an empathetic dimension also to this, right? There is also a dimension with regard to bias of data, right? Depending on what sampling I have taken and how I've derived to those samples to get to those ratios, right? And to go those means and medians, etc. There could be a bias in that, right? There could be a bias with respect to cultural differences, right? French versus an English, and in India we say somebody from North India to somebody from South India. There are cultural dimensions, and how do that impact human beings in making their decisions and conclusions, right? So there is that dimension that technology will evolve. It will continue to evolve. I have no doubts about it. I'm a big supporter from that perspective. But I think equally as an organization, there is still a lot more to be done. Before that, I think there's a lot more to be done as a society. I strongly believe that in our education system, whether it's at a school level or at a college level, this whole dimension of knowing yourself has to become a very integral part of your curriculum, right? I believe it is all about self-awareness. It's all about self-management, right? Which is very important, and emotional intelligence, right? Which is directly related to your mental well-being, right? Now, if you're not focused on that self-awareness and self-management, and if I'm not aware I have a problem, I will not go and seek a solution. But if I am aware that, hey, I need to work upon this, then whatever resources the organization is making available to me, I will go ahead proactively to leverage them, right? But if I'm not aware, then how will I leverage? Because I don't know what to leverage. Is my problem about depression? Is it about anxiety? Is it about irritation? Is it about anger? Is it about stress? Is it about workload? What kind of a tool do I need to take, right? That awareness has to come, which will define the management. I also think that sometimes as organizations, we kind of go overboard, right? Because suddenly technology becomes a flavor. Suddenly HR tech becomes a flavor. So then we are like, let's implement A, let's implement B, let's implement C, let's implement D. Now we implemented so many tools, so many programs, right? So by a simple statistical formula, Prakash, if you have 100 people, they will get divided over 5 different programs. You can't expect all 100 to participate in all 5 of them, right? Now, therefore, I think it requires all of us to step back and say, like we talk about strategic goals and financial goals of the organization, and say, what are my top KPIs? What is it I need to solve, right? It can be only 2, it can be only 3. So is for wellness. What is that I want to drive in 2024? What is that I want to drive in 2025? Rather than having a very scattered approach all over the place, let's bring all our resources at one place, drive one agenda, and then see can we achieve the desired results, right? At the end of the day, people are the most important capital that we have, right? And it is our responsibility to drive that engagement, to drive that adoption of these things, because I believe it is important. Going back to that $4 for every $1, right? You can't get a better financial return anywhere, Prakash.
Perfect. I think you really summed it up very well. So people are the most important capital that any organization will be have. So in a nutshell, we all understand, appreciate, acknowledge that mental well-being is central for having strong employee engagement, and technology plays a central role in identifying, nurturing for better health well-being. This is indeed one of the important strategic area, just not for the CHROs, but for every leader within the organization. Thanks so much, Sidharth, Vikas, and Sandipan for this discussion. And dear audience, before I open up for questions, it's interesting to see in the poll, would you feel comfortable using technology to report mental health? 65% indicating somewhat comfortable, and about 15%, 12% indicating not comfortable. That's interesting to see. Yes, it reflects both on the awareness as well as the thin line that is out there. So with that, I open it up for questions. And dear audience, feel free to post your questions. Let me quickly look up the questions that have got posted. Here's the first question. How important is financial well-being for a positive mental health? Yeah, it is indeed interesting out there. Sidharth, do you want to pick it up?
Prakash, I think it's important. Look, we spoke about the healthy organization, right? And in one of the pillars for a healthy organization is about financial fitness, is about financial well-being, right? What it actually means is, how do we ensure that there is a fair, equitable compensation structure in the organization? There are enough and more opportunities in the organization for people to grow and get promoted and therefore be able to earn more. But also, how do we bring the right kind of advice into the organization for the employees? That how should you plan about your financial well-being in terms of your social security, in terms of your savings, in terms of your short-term goals, medium-term goals, right? Which is a lot of the job that wealth advisors do in the organizations. We need to do that. And we got to understand that from an employee's perspective, right? In India, no matter what, there is a social stigma, there is a social pressure that every human being is facing about the uncles and the aunts and the neighbors and, where is your son working, your daughter working, how much are they earning, what do they have, right? This is part and parcel of the society. This is part and parcel of who we are and how we live. So you can't run away from it, but you can certainly prepare yourself in a much better fashion in solving for this, right? If I don't solve for my financial aspect, which solves for my needs and demands, then I'm always going to be stressed and low on productivity.
So it is key. Financial well-being is essentially ingrained as a part of the overall employee well-being. So the next question here, interesting. It says, in a legacy organization, do you think that employees will be receptive enough towards mental well-being initiatives? So by legacy, I believe the intention was organizations which are there for a long time. I guess that's how I read it.
Would you like me to take that? I can.
Yeah, go ahead, Vikas, please.
So this is, I don't think anything to do with legacy organizations or new age organizations. I think it's an ongoing challenge across organizations of different scale and size. The only advantage I think the newer or younger organizations would have is having a larger cohort of, let's say, the younger Gen Z population, where, as we've discovered and we've learned through some of the recent surveys, that that generation is possibly more confident, more open, more vocal about mental wellness and acceptable of initiatives in this space. So that could be the only difference. But having said that, I think, like I shared earlier when I was speaking, I think the responsibility of all leaders, including HR, of course, professionals, is to encourage communication around wellness and to encourage discussion, so that there is more and more acceptability of this, and more water cooler conversations, more webinars, more panel discussions like this, where people get exposed to different facets of wellness and they can discuss, open up, get help if need be, and that's the way forward.
Thanks, Vikas. Here is another interesting question. I don't know, it's on a bit of a tangent to mental illness. So I'll pick this from an interest of time. Do you think the 70-hour work culture aligned to contribute to country ethically counterproductive in the long term? I think the intent was to look at whether that drives something else on the employee well-being.
See, I think in the past there was a lot of narrative about work-life balance, right? And a lot of people have spoken about work-life balance, with a lot of HR gurus and management gurus in defining what work-life balance is. But essentially, it always boiled down to one thing, which is work-life integration, right? Which is about what you need to prioritize at what point of time, right? Sometimes work is more important, sometimes life is more important, right? And one, as an employee, you need to understand what this is. I think these big bold statements of 70 hours, 80 hours, and all of that, to me sometimes looks like a media gimmick, right? Because it attracts a lot of attention and a lot of emotions kind of come out for people, and then everybody has a view and a perspective about it. But I think in general, a lot of the organizations, whether in India or abroad, are not insensitive to people, right? The leaders are fairly aware and fairly conscious of the fact that they have to continuously strive for that work-life integration. And we got to give them the due credit for doing that. Will they get it always right? No. Will there be times when the organization will swing more towards work? Yes, because there could be financial crisis, there could be economic challenges, there could be new product, multiple things can be there. But I think in general, our ecosystem, our organizations, Prakash, in my mind, are moving in a direction where they do want to strive for a holistic well-being for our people.
Thanks so much, Sidharth. With that, I really want to thank all of you for taking time off. Thanks for this engaging conversation, discussion, and sharing of your experience. We really appreciate and acknowledge. Thank you so much. And audience, thank you so much for your participation. Madhura, over to you.
Wow, I thoroughly enjoyed the conversation. Thank you, audience, for posing such wonderful questions that were all coming from heart. Thank you, panelists, for sharing your views on this very crucial new age topic. I hope our audience tonight has gained some valuable insights, underscoring the importance of being open and how you feel and about your mental health as employees, and the role of HR in providing support. And of course, not to forget the impact of technology, both positive and negative in the overall scheme of things. So while we end this webinar tonight, stay tuned to TCS Chroma for more of such events in the future. You can reach out to us by writing to platform.solutions@tcs.com. Signing off. Have a fabulous evening.